Welcome back to another installment of The View from 32. This week we have local musicians and songwriter Phil Kell and Stephen Bowman. Enjoy. All right, welcome back to another episode of The View from 32. I'm Taylor, and we've got Phil, and we've got Stephen, and we're really excited to be here.
Hi, Taylor.
Hi.
Hi, Taylor. It's nice to be here.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
good to see you guys. Thanks for taking some time to come chat with us. So, I'm gonna just ask some questions, and whoever wants to answer can answer. It's not super formal, so don't. Yeah, if I don't see you raise your hand, you won't be called on. But I expect participation from both. I'm just kidding. So, in terms of music, that's why we're here. COVID is kind of wrecked some plans in terms of playing out live. Have you guys been up to anything, in the meantime? Have you found this time to, gain some inspiration or have some time to develop your skills? What's been going on?
No.
No.
No, it's been awful.
Yeah, it's definitely been weird. Yeah. Any new writing? Any new?
I've coughed up a couple of tunes. And the kind of saving grace, we've had fun with the acapella app.
Oh, nice, yeah.
Which is the thing that makes you look like you're on Hollywood Squares and there's 3 or 4 of you or you and your friends playing a song. We should do more of that.
Have you been doing that to like push out to your followers and whatnot, or just more for fun?
My brother.
Okay. Okay.
Our fam club.
I understand.
Yeah.
I understand. My mom's my number one fan.
Yep.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. So, you're both guitar players,
Yes.
and any other instruments? I know you play a couple.
Yeah, I
What
do
you
some
got?
piano and I'm equally a bass player to
Okay.
my guitar playing.
Okay, perfect. Bass would be your main one, or is it guitar, bass,
People
both?
ask me that all the time, yeah. And whichever one I'm being assigned at the moment, hopefully
Yeah.
is my main one. I try not to play bass like a guitar player.
Understandable. Yeah. I feel like most guitar players think they can play bass, but bass is a hard instrument to play well. And so you have to, you can just hit the bass notes, of a song, but that's not really playing the bass.
Like, yeah, it's that conundrum. It can be easy and hard.
Yes.
I like to think of it as the role playing. If you are an actor and you might be the romantic lead, or you might be the comic relief, or you might be the bad guy, you've got to be that guy. And if you're the bass player, you're supposed to be the bass player. I think every guitar player should play some bass, and every bass player should play some guitar.
Yeah.
Just to understand the role. And I am often guilty. I try to, when I'm playing bass, you can frolic some, and if you still do your job.
Right.
So, I don't always stay where I should, but I endeavor to.
Yeah, but it's fun because you're learning new things and figuring out who likes what you're playing and who doesn't.
Well,
Whenever somebody looks at you.
Right. Well, you also get to understand things better. Like, I'm like what I consider real piano players.
Oh,
they can
yeah.
read a score. They can play, I can play some blues and some rock and roll. But you get to understand a tune and how things to go together, because you're got the melody, you got the harmony, you got the bass line.
Yeah, music can be very mathematical
Yeah.
with stuff like that. It's amazing because I can't read a note of music. I've been playing for like 20 years. I can't read a note. And it's like it's like a foreign language. And so, yeah, like what you said, when somebody puts down, a really intricate score in front of a piano player and they've never seen it before and they just start playing it, it's just like, yikes.
Much respect.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. So in terms of playing, what have you guys been, doing right now? Or are you trying to do any sort of collaboration recording, or are you guys jamming together just to keep your skills up?
Well, we were lucky enough to have a gig last Friday.
Yep.
Nice.
And
Outdoor? Was it an outdoor
It's
thing?
outdoor.
Yeah.
I'm sticking with outdoors
Yep.
To try to,
Totally.
not participate in the pandemic.
Yeah, right.
And and this was at the help me out here,
Union River.
Union River Lobster Pot in
Nice.
In Ellsworth.
That's why he brought me.
And and it got us to practice. Actually, we didn't we added a couple of new things, but mostly
Mm.
to, just keep the stuff from completely fading
Right.
away.
Right.
And we mix it up with some jazzy stuff and some of the real standard, like folksy duo with the guitars,
Right. Right.
the band and stuff like that, and some blues, and so no real new direction
Right.
at this point.
Yeah, it's kind of a stalemate for everyone trying to figure out what's next. It's
It's
weird.
Is,
It's a weird time. And yeah, everyone that has been on the show that we've asked is they're kind of like, yeah, writing and trying to, I don't know, I'm not sure what's next,
Yeah.
And a couple of people have had, see albums that they've just made and they're, ready to do their release and then no release.
Right.
No, yeah, just kind of everything's on hold. It's a weird time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Fine. I really miss the gigs. Really getting that sense of having that release, getting in front of people and just
Yeah.
putting something out there. Boy, I've been really lucky, I would say, for, God, I don't know how many years now. I in the slow season, like almost average a gig every week or two. And
Yeah.
in the busy season, it goes up to 3 or 4.
Yeah.
And then to go all these months with just a gig here and a gig there is
It's frustrating.
it's frustrating.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's this outlet that's missing in this communication.
Totally. Well, and it's something to where I think a lot of musicians, and I'm definitely an introvert. I'm more, I just like being at the house. I like in the quiet. And I find a lot of musicians are introverts. And so for somebody like myself or another introverted musician, having that time in front of people to where you don't have to talk to them, but you're still in front of other humans, it's nice. It's a way to kind of
You're still
feel like
interacting.
you're social and interacting through music with people. And so a lot of people are finding it hard. Extroverts are finding this very hard because they can't go to parties and do all the stuff. And so, yeah, I kind of feel at home social distancing because
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
to add to that, there was several, like 3 or 4 months before we started playing together again. And there's, I think of this list of, I haven't seen Bo. I haven't
Right.
seen Blake. I
Yeah.
haven't seen Jim Kaufman.
Yeah.
And these are my brothers.
yeah, it's really strange. It really is. Now, y'all have been playing together for a while, on and off for a while.
Yeah.
Well, I think we met back in around 2013, maybe
Okay.
2014.
Okay,
Yeah.
good stuff. So not super long.
No, not
several
really.
years.
Yeah, and fairly regularly we've
Yeah.
been gigging together. When we had like a month without a gig, and then we were like, wow, that's been a long time.
Yeah.
And we would take turns, calling each other or contacting each other.
Yep.
So oftentimes, because of Phil's expertise in jazz standards and what he's taught me, he'd often get, asked to play something a bit more jazzy for a venue.
Sure.
And then I would get a call for somebody who was looking for some folky music with vocals.
Yeah.
And so we would take turns, basically.
Gotcha.
If I got the gig, it would be folky. If you got the gig, it would be jazzy.
Yeah.
So it was a nice combination.
That's cool. Well, and it broadens your horizons musically too, which is nice.
Yeah, well, we had a thing for a while. We were playing mostly at Sips and in Ellsworth at
Fins?
Finn's. and sometimes it was Stephen Bowman and Phil Kell.
Yeah.
And that was mostly vocals, a lot of good familiar, a lot of sing-along songs to get
Nice.
people going.
Yeah.
And then sometimes it was Phil Kell and Stephen Bowman, and which were a lot of jazz standards
Yep.
and originals that sneak in there, and if you're not paying attention, you thought it was an old song you knew.
Yeah. Yeah.
Played instrumentally.
Okay. Oh, nice. Nice. I love that. It's good music to just relax to.
Good dinner
it's
music.
Nice. Exactly. It's perfect.
But, the staff usually comes up to him and says, "Oh, we love you guys. You're not too loud."
Yeah. Yep.
Hey, I'm happy with that.
Exactly.
Yeah, that was always the benchmark. If somebody comes up and says, you didn't have to turn it down. That was a good gig.
Yeah, yeah. If
Or
nobody,
better. Geez, quit hardly here. Can you bring it up?
those are the good ones.
Guitar players, we don't hear turn it up very
No,
often.
guitar players and drummers.
Oh, God.
Nope. So what's we'll start with Steven, I guess. What's your background musically? Why'd you start playing? When did you start playing?
Well, I was probably about 9 or 10 years old,
Okay, so just as a little kid.
just
Yeah.
as a child, yeah. And had a great deal of admiration for my oldest brother, George. He played guitar. And I remember asking, will you teach me how to play? And he said, no.
Yeah, get away from me.
Are you crazy? He said, no, you have to do the same thing I did. And he would let me use his vinyl record that said, Play Along with the Ventures. And it came with a melody book and chord
Yep.
book and stuff like that. And
Before you could look tabs up online.
before there was anything
Yeah.
online.
Yeah.
I'm sure you could get that again on eBay for a couple $100.
Probably,
Yeah.
maybe 1,000 or more. But yeah, that's how I got started.
Nice.
Yeah,
Very
and,
nice.
Um,
And then
like
you just
I,
played
like you. I don't know how to read music.
just by ear, basically, just kind of.
Ear and tabs and
Yep.
lessons with Phil. But
Yep.
I remember being back in grade school, and they really, in my mind, they messed me up because they said, well, all the lines are every good boy deserves fudge.
Yeah.
And all the spaces are face.
Yeah.
Nobody told you it was just the alphabetical order. If they told me
Right.
that, then I would know
Yeah.
where to go from one note to the next. But,
Exactly. I still,
yeah.
to this day, I just can't. I try. I can't do it. I can't do it. But you've been, ever since you started, you've been playing ever since. Never stopped,
Well,
or have you taken some hiatuses and then got back into
Yeah,
it?
I got married,
Yeah.
had a child,
Yeah.
had to sell a lot of equipment to pay for oil, things like that.
Yep.
And then, careers get in the way. And
Yep.
then I'd say probably about 15, maybe 20 years ago, I decided to get re-involved with it. I had kept I had bought a 12-string guitar by Guild
Okay. Yep.
back in the 60s.
Guild are some of my favorite guitars.
Yeah, I
They're
just held
amazing.
on to it. And
Yep.
Of course, it was neglected for a lot of time, a lot of years, and bridge was popping off. The fret
Yeah.
needed to be redone. I had made the mistake of putting a jack on the side of the guitar
Oh,
to electrify it.
Yeah.
And of course, I'm playing on the bed, and I leaned on it and put a gaping hole in the side. And so
Classic.
I brought it to Luthier up in New Hampshire, Tilton, New Hampshire area. And
See, what did you do to this poor thing?
well, back in the 60s, it cost $600 to buy. It was a pretty expensive guitar back then.
Guilds are, real nice.
And so, I asked him how much it would cost to get repaired, and he says, maybe about $600. And I said, oh, great. What do you think it'd be worth after that? So, well, about $600.
Yep. Yep.
So I had a lot of sentimental value, so I had it
Sure.
repaired, and
Sure.
I still have it. And I
That's
don't play it
awesome.
as much as I used to because I've gotten used to playing electric guitar, and my fingers aren't as strong as they used to be. I've let them get a little weak. So
Yeah. Well, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah, I feel like you always find your way back to things that you love to do. So
yeah.
yeah, it's cool. And it's funny because right now, I'm married and we've got 2 little ones, and my wife and I don't play as much as we used to, but it's fun just talking about, getting back into it because we do
Sure.
love it and it's fun. And so that's cool. So how about you, Phil? Where'd you start?
Well, I had siblings that played too. My brother Doug and my sister Michelle were pretty good piano players. They took lessons from this real cool teacher. And I started this instrument, I started that instrument. It wasn't until I think the summer before 9th grade, I invested my hard-earned $40 in a cheap, no-name bass. And that was the point at which I stuck with it, an instrument, and didn't quit. And a couple of years later, I was branched out to the guitar, and I was branched out to the upright bass.
Oh, nice.
And I had a number of good teachers, and played in high school in the orchestra and the concert band, and then studied and got a degree in music performance on the double bass from
Oh, wow.
UMaine.
Okay. That's cool.
And which I subsequently graduated and sold my basses, because I got far enough on that to appreciate what a mountain was in front of me. I studied all those years and practiced hours to get to the base of the mountain,
Yeah.
and realized that if you were going to climb that mountain, you had to really love it. And I really loved rock and roll.
Yep. Yeah.
But I, obviously continued on with the guitar and the bass guitar, and Yeah, I've played with so many good musicians, and a few others over the years. I never guessed when I was a teenager that I would end up playing a lot of country music, which was a necessity because I lived in the state of Maine. I lived in the country, and that's where the gigs were, and I learned to love it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's great. The guitar licks, the great old country stuff.
Yeah. It's fun to play too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. My wife and I lived in Nashville for the last 10 years, and I was never a country guy. And I'm still not a super country guy, but people were always like, oh, Nashville country, you must love country music. And I'm like, no, not really. But over the years, my wife would play a song, or I'd hear a song, and I'm like, dang it, that's kind of catchy. I kind of like that.
Well,
and so over the years, I've grown to appreciate it way more, and I actually do enjoy some of the country artists. But yeah, it's funny how your musical tastes can change, and depending on where you are, and depending on just the stage of life you're in.
Yeah. Well, also, musical genres. There's a lot of blurry lines because you've got country, which is right next to Western swing,
but it's also next to like folk
and folk.
Yeah.
And
on
the
the other
blues,
side of things. Yeah.
And then jazz. It comes right in there. It's all. And there is. It's almost like saying a phrase with a different accent. You
totally.
You could take the same lick and move it, change the context, and it's been played by Barney Kessel, jazz guitar maven, or by Roy Clark, or by Chet Atkins, or by B.B. King.
Exactly.
It's all one. So.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's cool. And now, in terms of you write music, correct? A bit. Where do you find who do you like to listen to for inspiration? Who's your kind of who do you listen to and you're like, wow, I'd love to write like this person, or I like the style of this, I want to try and write like this, or do you just say, I don't listen to anyone, I like my own style and do my own thing?
Oh no, it's definitely derivative.
Sure.
And
I know that's kind of a tough question because there's probably a bit, but are there a few artists that?
Well, actually, most of my writing is really inspired by what they call the Great American Songbook, which is the Gershwin and Cole Porter.
Gotcha.
What are known now as jazz standards. They were the popular songs of the first half of the last century. Most of them came from Broadway shows.
Gotcha.
And then it rolls right from there into the Beatles, especially Paul.
Yeah.
When you take it apart, he comes directly out of that tradition. There's no dividing line, even though culturally it was rock and roll with louder drums.
Right.
It's really the same stuff, and I think that shows up. That you can see that I'm attempting for that, and maybe in my dreams, Stevie Wonder and Paul.
Paul Baccarat?
That's not right, Paul. What's the
Bud
name?
Baccarat.
David. I should know the names, Baccarat and David.
Yeah.
Hal David and Burt Baccarat.
Okay.
Just like really melody oriented stuff. When I'm writing instrumentals, if I was a lyric writer, I might be coming up with a lot of riff rock or a lot of folky background that gets out of the way and lets the lyrics be stand front and center. But
yeah, instrumentals are a completely different animal.
But yeah, so really it's about the harmonic changes underneath.
Yeah. Well, the music, the melody is the lyric,
Right.
Like, that's what people are paying attention to.
Though most of my tunes I see as songs that are waiting for their lyrics to be written.
Yep. I get that.
I hear almost hear the bits of phrases that I can't quite grab. If I could, I would.
No, I totally get that.
And when it comes to lyrics, I've written some silly lyrics and they're fun, but probably the reason I don't write lyrics is because my standards are beyond my grasp. Paul Simon, John Hyatt, people like that.
Yeah, great writers.
Are like the gods that I just, I get an idea and I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
don't let anybody see this.
Yeah, if you try and mimic Paul Simon,
Right.
yeah, he's fantastic songwriter, and it's funny, 40, 50 years later, his songs are still just as relevant. And it's really, I mean, it's kind of crazy when you think about it. He wrote these words half of a, century ago, and people are still trying to learn them.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Yep. And trying to mimic them. And Stephen, how about you? If you sit down with your guitar, at night just to play some music, what do you play, and what do you like to just jam to?
Well, in the old days it was, the John Denver and Bob Dylan, folky kind of songs.
Yep.
So, but then I met Phil,
And I ruined it.
and he changed everything. No, I actually started taking guitar lessons with Phil a number of years ago. And I started because I really wanted to learn how to play melodies and solos.
Sure.
And somehow, I think he must have had a master plan in the back of his mind, but he started teaching me these jazz chords, these close chords. And
Yeah.
next thing you know, he's asking me to, help him out with a gig that he's got coming up because he needs somebody to play the chords.
Jazz-
to the melodies
jazz
he
guitar,
wants to
yeah.
play. So it worked out quite well. I got to learn quite a bit. And the most challenging thing, other than learning the shapes and, transitioning from one chord to the next, was looking at the iPad and watching the chord changes. Because
Yeah.
up until that point, I really essentially did my best to try to memorize everything. And he would say, let's do this song. And so I'd have to bring it up, and then I would have to try to play and watch and read and keep in time with him all
Right.
at the same time. It was a struggle.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
I think finally we got there. We made some improvements.
Jazz is very difficult. In high school, I was in jazz band. I played guitar, and I was so terrible, like so terrible. And I would always turn my guitar way down so that
Yeah.
people wouldn't hear how terrible I was. And playing jazz is super intimidating because when you're first learning, it's hard, and there's a lot of changes, and they're not normal. It's not just your G, C, minor D that you're just rocking along to. It's very technical, and it's terrifying.
And then there's the rhythm aspects of the different types of rhythm that would, enhance a particular song. I've gotten familiar with the bossa nova in the Latin rhythm, and I kind of like that the most. And he'll tell me, no, straight.
Yeah. So
Straight shuffle here.
when you were first learning, 9 or 10, what were the musicians or what were the songwriters that you wanted to learn their songs? Was it the John Denvers and the Bob
John Denver's,
Dylans?
well, of course, the Beatles.
Okay, yeah.
A little bit older, when I started getting into a rock and roll stage, it was Grand Funk Railroad.
Okay, nice.
Santana,
Yeah.
the band,
Yep.
groups like that kind of pushed in another direction.
Yeah, totally.
So, I was in a couple of, well, one was a basement band, the other was a garage band. But
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But it's fun. It's fun to play different styles and, like we said earlier, broaden your horizons with different types of music.
Yeah.
So, no, that's cool. Now, when you all play together, I know it's kind of like you have a gig and you help, and you have a gig and you help. Do you ever write together? Do you ever do any sort of collaborations or
not in writing, no.
Nope.
No.
any?
This is my new song. I'll send it
Gotcha.
to you.
All right. Any plans for any sort of, plans are kind of hit or miss right now. It's kind of weird. Any plans before this or in the future of doing any sort of, recordings together? Do you record your music or?
I find ways to put together some kind of usable demo to send.
Sure.
Like when I play with Stephen or anybody else, to say, well, this is sort of what it sounds like. Actually, I do, none of that is anywhere near something you'd present as a product.
Sure.
It's just like you get the idea of where how the notes land. But that's a good question. It's always there in the back of my head.
Yeah.
A lot of the problem is the motivation. Is it worth the trouble it would take to do it halfway right?
Sure. Yeah, it's a lot. It's hard work. It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's never, that idea is probably not going to completely go away until I do something.
Yep. Yeah, I totally get that. Well, and now, there's a lot of tools out there that are fairly inexpensive and sound pretty good to where you can kind of, get a cable and plug it into GarageBand and,
Well, yeah, pretty much with the kind of stuff, my vision, as it were, that I like, would require things to be played live.
Gotcha. So more full band jazz kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
or even just a guitar duo, but
Played together so you can actually kind of feel it.
yeah, that's the difference.
Yeah.
Is because in pop music and dance music a lot, it makes perfect sense to like here's the drum track and
It's
then the bass.
It's four on the floor and
Right, and you build it from the
Yeah.
bottom up, because whatever the the bass does in the 87th bar is not going to change what somebody else does in that bar, or in the next
Sure.
bar. Whereas in jazz, as it were,
Yeah.
everybody's having a conversation. So it'd be sort of like saying, well, let's do this interview. You ask the questions, and then we'll come in and film my answers
Later, yeah.
and then your reactions then after.
Yep.
Yeah, it's not going to work.
That's a good analogy, and that's true because I feel like you feed off one another
Right,
in a
so
jazz sort of environment.
Theoretically, it should be easier to record that way because you just go
Right.
in, and if a song's 4 minutes long, you do it in 4 minutes.
Yeah.
But also, you have to, the spirit and the right notes all have to be there together
Yep.
at the right time. And, you can't say, oh, well, the mic wasn't working on the bass drum or something. It's all
Right.
it's got to happen.
It's true. Now, Steven, you said you took lessons from Phil. Are you a teacher as well? Guitar teacher?
I am.
Bass,
Yeah.
guitar, bass, piano. You do it all, or
Yeah.
more guitar, bass?
Mostly guitar and bass. If someone asks me about piano lessons, there's a lot of caveats because I don't want to oversell.
Sure.
There's certain things I'm good at. And they might be things that are hard to get from a lot of the classically
Right.
trained people around.
Right.
But if you really want to learn correctly, I have names.
Sure. Yeah.
And very often I'll say, oh, that's great. Here's who you should go to.
Right. Right. Now, with your teaching, do you have a website or email or something that people could reach out to if they see this and they're like, oh, I've been looking for a guitar
I don't
teacher?
find me on Facebook.
Okay. And we'll stick the links down in the video description so people can check it out. But yeah, I just wanted to see if
Yeah,
that
and
was something
currently, unfortunately, most of my lessons I've had a couple outdoors
Yep.
on the back porch.
Yep.
Otherwise, they've been on video, which
Sure.
is lacking on something.
Yeah.
But we are able to still, lessons are still happening,
Right.
and
Well, good.
improvement is still taking place.
Good. That's awesome. How'd you get into teaching? Just something that did it just
needed-
happen?
I needed money,
Gotcha.
and it was definitely not my first or second or third choice. But I was like, well, maybe it was my third choice. And I was doing it for a while, and God bless my first students of several years of teaching because that's when I learned how to teach.
Sure.
If I know how to teach. But I remember distinctly like leaving a lesson one time and thinking, I'm enjoying this, and I'm starting to feel good at it.
No, that's a good feeling though when
It is.
you're
And-
apprehensive about something but you grow to love it.
Yes,
Yeah.
and if you are my student, the more you practice, the better of teacher I am. So, just saying.
It's also true. It's also true. Yeah. Yeah. Well, because you can be a great teacher, but if they're not practicing at all, they're never going to get better. And then you don't look like a good teacher.
Yeah, there's that lecture.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, we can do last weekend's lesson again, and we can do it again next week
Yeah.
too. But it's really not fun for me or you,
Right.
But
It's true.
the thing is, I love music and guitar so much that, somebody's going to let me talk about it for half an hour and then give me money.
Right. Well,
like
and it's
that.
also probably cool, sharing your knowledge with the future generations and saying,
Stephen.
Or older
Yeah.
generations.
oh yeah, hey, either way. But I don't know, just sharing that for the other people to, maybe one of your students will be a teacher someday and pass along things that you taught. And
Well,
it's cool to think about that.
It's crazy now. I have several former students that are accomplished musicians, and they're out there in the world.
I love it. See, that must be so kind of satisfying to see.
Some of them
Yeah.
have gone to music school themselves, and some people, I don't look at every student as the next potential.
Sure.
I want everyone to have it learned to be part of their lives that they enjoy and get
Right.
enrichment from.
Right.
And sometimes I'll run into a student or a parent of a student, and they'll say, "Oh yeah, they did this song," and it's just like,
Yeah. Yeah. I
that
love
really
it.
means a lot.
Oh, totally. Yeah. And so besides teaching, I know y'all play out around town. Have you ever gone and done any sort of stuff, on tour, on the road, doing any music out of state or around the country or anything?
No, I have not. It's funny. I've read, a lot of bios of musicians, and in England, a lot of times they say they went on a tour, but they came home to London every night.
Right, yeah.
Because England's like, I don't know, compared to the state of Maine.
Right.
And they call that a tour. And maybe in that sense, but no, I think.
But you said you were playing out, 3, 4, or 5 nights a week sometimes.
Yeah.
Like when it's busy. So.
Usually on this island.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Okay.
And certainly in this county, I've done, Bangor is kind of the next center.
Sure.
And
Sure.
I have definitely played a lot in Bangor, and all over the state if I add it up.
Yeah.
But never on tour. Hardly ever 2 gigs, without coming home.
Yeah.
in between.
That's nice. Living out of a suitcase is not ideal.
Yeah. I kind of wish I got a taste of that when I was young.
Yeah.
It sounds like a great pirate lifestyle.
Yeah.
If you're 20.
Exactly. Yeah. Some of these guys have been on the road for 30 years, and it's like, whoa.
Yeah, I mean, some people have adapted to it
Well,
so that they can't even stay home.
Right. That's also true. Now, in your, 3 to 4 nights a week, that's a lot. That's a lot of playing.
That is, and that's the peak. That doesn't last for.
Sure, yeah. It's summertime, spring, fall, probably a little bit too. Any crazy stories? Any funny happenings in your travels? Usually, musicians have the best stories, the best gig stories.
Ones that are PG.
Maybe like PG 13,
Plus,
PG
yeah.
PG 12.
Yeah. Actually, I what comes to mind is just theater stuff. I've done a fair amount of community theater and summer stock back when I was in college.
Yeah.
And with the Penobscot Theater, which is, what do they say, the northernmost professional theater. Wonderful. I love working with them. Things at the Grand, things here with Acadia. And that's kind of where some of the interesting stuff has happened way back with in Waterville, the Waterville Summer Music Theater. And there was, when you do the same show 14 times and you play sitting in the same place doing the same theater for the entire 3 months of summer.
Right.
You just wait for something,
Oh yeah.
You just watch the dialogue, and if somebody drops a line, it's like, oh, it got interesting.
Change.
Your hair stands on end, like, how are they going to get back on track here? So, it was My Fair Lady. We're sitting there because a lot of the old school ones have a lot of dialogue, so you're sitting waiting for your cue.
Yeah.
And there's some fluttering up, something moving around up in the balcony. They didn't sell tickets. They didn't sell seats in the balcony. It's not like, what is going on up there?
During a show.
During a show.
Okay.
Oh yeah, right in the middle of My Fair Lady. It's like, oh gee, there's a bird up there. And it's like, well, it's, that's kind of interesting. But
The audience probably couldn't see it, and everyone on stage was probably staring at it.
Well, yeah, certainly they were busy. I don't know who could see what, but I'm thinking, if it stays there, we're fine. But no, that wasn't good enough. It circled a couple times, and then it came down right on the footlights, right there.
And immediately burst into flames.
And Ozzy came along and bit the head off of it. No, I'm trying to think. Is it Henry Higgins is that right? Yeah. Henry, and he didn't miss a line. He was like upset about something, and and he nailed all his lines, and he said, "And get these damn birds out of here." And that was like, like 3 years of summer theater, and I remember 3 shows.
Yeah.
And that was one of them.
Yep.
And the night the lights fell down out of the sky, and luckily didn't hurt anybody.
Yeah, that's a bad day.
That was kind of cool, though.
Wasn't the Phantom of the Opera.
And there was what's the Fiddler on the Roof, the Tailor. I look up there and the tailor is turning green, and he runs off stage, and he runs back on and says a line, and then he runs off and he runs back on and says a line, and then he runs off stage again, and the stage manager comes on with like his hat and his vest on and says the next line. And then there's intermission, and there was a different tailor that, not you, but
Yeah, no.
that
TII.
finished out the show.
I love it.
Live
good one.
music,
No, that's a good one.
live theater is
Yeah,
pretty
live-
exciting.
Live shows can get crazy, and
The show must go on.
the show must go on at the same time. Like you said, it's probably going to be the same every show, probably. But the one time it's not, it's so funny
Right.
and so
As
exciting.
long as nobody gets hurt and
Well,
everyone
exactly.
gets paid.
Exactly. those
things,
are
yeah.
those are the two things that you don't want to happen. I love it. And so, what's next for you guys? I know nobody really knows what's next, but are you guys, planning some more outdoor gigs that you can talk about, or do you have anything coming up?
We have one on the books. It's
All right.
a private party that we're
Okay.
excited about. It's going to be mostly friends there, but we also get paid, so
Very
there's
nice.
everything going for it. And the weather's going to be perfect.
Yeah.
And, there's no telling. I mean, we don't, nobody knows how this whole thing
It's
is going
true.
to play out.
It's
I would
true.
love to be gigging regularly again.
Mm.
I guess, nobody is really figuring out how to let this be normal.
Right.
Yeah, I'm starting to think that we should just get out and busk somewhere.
Yeah.
Just because
Yeah.
because I need to be playing and rehearsing together is great, but it's not the whole thing.
Right. No, I totally
without
get that.
anybody giving us dirty looks and ignoring us and telling us to turn down. It's just not the same.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. For me, it's mostly just trying to be a better musician and learn more music.
Yeah.
And more
It's a good time
songs
for
and-
that.
Yeah.
There's plenty of time to
Yeah.
play.
I've got plenty of gear that I've only ever scratched the surface of learning how to use.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, good.
Yeah.
Good. Well, that's great, you guys. I really appreciate you coming on and chatting with us. And we're going to hear you guys play a few songs. Are you doing any originals or covers? Or
That's our plan. We're going to do a couple originals.
Okay, great. Perfect. And you can tell us about them when you're playing them, before you play them, just so we can hear kind of if there's a backstory or
Okay.
what they're called or anything. And we'll put some links in the description for your Facebook, emails, how to book you guys. If somebody's got an outdoor show coming up, we can do that. And so we'll cut out for a sec and we'll hear you play.
All right.
Thanks,
Taylor.
y'all.
Thank you, Taylor.
So, we call this tune Blue with a Touch of Green. And the backstory is that I wrote this specifically because I liked the sound of the notes in this order. Take it away, Stephen. this next one's different, a little swingy tune. And the backstory on this is that I like the order of these notes in this song. And the rhythm.
In the rhythm.
If I play them right. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Cue the applause.